Welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate, hosted by me, Thomas F Chappell Jr. Where I left off at, we were talking about doing JVs and wholesale and whatnot. So the one thing I want to reiterate is why the real estate clubs are so important because, like I said, there's a multitude of people there that you can get all your information from. Maybe you might find your next partner, or you might find the type of money that you need to do a deal, if you will. So, what I want to talk about next is basically buying and holding or rental properties. What is a rental property? A rental property is a property that you do not live in, that you have, and you're renting it out to other people. Now, a lot of people like having rental properties, as they call it, just being able to leave a lineage, if you will, have properties that they could pass down to their family members, that it will keep going on in the family or whatnot. Now, how do you get a rental property? How do you assess a rental property? Well, it's the same thing you would do if you was actually doing a flip deal. You know, you want to be able to, instead of doing a full flip deal, the one part you have to do with it is that you're just getting it rental ready. You know, you're just making sure that everything is intact, the water's fine, the plumbing's fine, the electric's fine, things like that. Because you wouldn't want to put somebody in a house that has any hazards, you know, to where something could happen and they get hurt by it. You know, even though it's not a property that you want to live in, but it's something that someone can call home. You know, some people just don't want to live in an apartment anymore. You know, they want the comforts of a home. So you would have to turn around and give them something that they can feel that is theirs, even though they are renting it. And if it's something that they're renting, they love it, they'll stay for years. You know, they'll stay till they probably pass away, and they probably turn around and let their family live there after they done passed away. So that's what you're looking at now. The best way to do a rental property is you got to understand how to come up with the numbers to charge for rent. You know, um, and the thing of it is that you got to be able to be equipped to use a financial calculator. Now, what is a financial calculator? It's an actual calculator that help you with financing, on with helping you come up with the numbers of what you're supposed to charge for rent and what your yield would be, and all the different things like that. So, at these clubs, a lot of people end up teaching the financial calculator. One of my two favorite mentors, Mr. Bill Tan and Mr. Andy Teasley, they are good at doing financial calculator. And financial calculators are not just for real estate; it's for anything that you're financing. You know, that way, if you're going to finance a car, at least you'll know what your monthly payment would be and how much is it amortized by the year. So therefore, you know, when you go into the dealership, they can't give you something that's outrageous. You know automatically. Same thing with buying a house. So you use the financial calculator to turn around and determine what your rents will be. So you turn around and have a property, or let's say you end up getting the property from a seller and you want to do a sell by own. So what a sell by own means is that the owner, or carry, which means that the owner still owns the property, and you pay the note, and then you put some money into their pocket, and then you turn around and have some money set aside for the essentials, which means, like, let's say the pipes break, the water heater, things like that, so you can do the maintenance on the property. And let's say you want to put a couple of dollars in your pocket. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that the mortgage is $700 a month. Okay, so now you turn around and say, I'm gonna give the owner an extra $300, tax-free money. So now you went from $700 to $1,000. So then you say, I'm gonna take an extra $200 or $300 for non-essentials, which is, like I said, for maintenance. That goes from $1,000 to $1,300, and you say you want to put an extra couple of dollars in your pocket, say $200. Now you went from 13 to 1,500. So in that ballpark range is what you're going to be charging someone to rent. So when you're talking about that, that's where the financial calculator comes in. It helps you out to come up with all the things that you need to do to take care of that. Now, what you have your rental property is that you got to make sure that the house is livable, that, you know, the person would want to stay. You just can't be just picking anybody. You got to screen your people. You got to make sure they credit straight. You know, you got to make sure they got a decent job. They've been on it for a while, and different things like that, because, you know, you don't want nobody who's going to come in and destroy your property. then you got to refix it up. A lot of times, a lot of people get properties in nice neighborhoods because they got tenants that would love to stay. And when you screen the tenants, you would want them to say, "I want to live here forever. I don't want to be here for 6 months. I don't want to be here for a year," because then that person, it's bad to have a turnaround. It's not a good thing, because that means you just got them in there for 6 months. Then you got to got to fix it back up, fix up whatever things that needs to be taken care of so you can re-rent it, and that's something that you just don't want to do. And a lot of people don't understand what it is to do these things. They say, "Oh, I want to be a landlord," but what does it take to be a landlord? Oh, well, it takes this, this, and this. Or maybe I want to get a property manager to manage my properties. Do you understand what it takes to have a property manager? Do you know about all the different things that they do? Do you understand that everything that they do, you got to pay extra money on top of that? You know, so understanding going to these events, all these meetings, gives you the information, the education that you need to be able to get what you want to get done. The whole question is, what is in it for me? Well, what is in it for me is the fact is that I got a niche, and this is what I want to do. And what makes it even harder is because a lot of people come off from the couch and say, "Oh, this is so easy," and then when they really realize, then they turn around and quit because they didn't want to do this or they didn't want to learn that. They didn't have this and they didn't have that, and it just doesn't work. That's why going to these meetings, this is all about learning how to network with a lot of different people that's done a lot of different things in these industries, because the way things are done is not the way they are seen, and people get all twisted and get all confused on that. And that's one of the things that you have to have the diligence to do. A lot of people just can't come in here. I talk to a lot of people all the time and say, "This is what I want to learn how to do." So now they get into it, and it's like, it's not what I thought it would be. So then the other question they come up with is, okay, how do we go about getting financing? They talk about using other people's money. Well, how do you use other people's money? You know, it's basically saying I can use my money to do different things, not just go spend it crazy, but I can use my money to do other things while I'm using money to go ahead and take care of purchasing these properties and whatnot. So um, using other people's monies is either going through hard money lenders or going through private lenders. And what private lenders are is individuals between you and that individuals. And some of them have criteria, which means they want to make sure your credit score is a certain amount, whether it's 640 and above. A lot of them wants to know, do you have any skin in the game, which means, do you have any down payment? A lot of them want to know a lot of different things, and getting that together, it makes it a little harder. Now, hard money is another scenario. Basically, they don't really care too much about your credit score, but the credit score gives you a point to say this is how much your rate is going to be. But they make it a little bit easier, but you do have to have a skin in the game, just like buying a car. You have to have a down payment. You have to show that you have the money to fix up the property. So let's say the property costs $100,000. You know, if you are a seasoned investor, you coming in with 10% of your of the purchase price. If you're not, then you're coming in between 25 and 35% of the purchase price. And that way, a lot of people don't have it. So we say, okay, get you an investor, a partner. And then if you get your partner, the deal still be yours. However, now you're coming in between 15 to 25% down. That's a little bit better than 25 to 35%. And then the last way is like, okay, if you haven't done a deal in 2 years, then you come in with 20% down. But you have to come in with something in order to you can be able to get these deals done. So whether you do whether you do flip or holds, this is what you have to do, and understanding where you're going, you know. And a lot of people just don't. And it's very hard and frustrating because when you talk to people on a regular basis and you explain these things to them, they be very, very confused on what it takes to get things done. Well, I don't want to go through all that. I don't know if I can do that. It's not what you can or can't do, it's what you want to do, and that's one of the biggest things. And the next thing I'm gonna jump into is what can I jump into? The next thing I'm gonna jump into is notes. What is note buying? Notes is active note, which could be a house note, car note, different things like that. And when you jump into notes, same thing. Going to these meetings, you got a lot of experienced people that do jump into notes, and understanding a lot of people got active notes, and a lot of people have inactive notes, which you call note buying is something that I'm really not averse at, so that's why it's kind of hard for me to talk about. But that's another aspect of real estate that a lot of people get involved in is note buying, and you just want to make sure that you go to these clubs and get all the education that you need. So I'm gonna take another commercial break because it's about that time, and then when we come back, we'll talk more. Thank you for listening to the Real Men of Real Estate.